My daughter stopped smiling 3 months ago. Harper used to light up every room she walked into, but now she barely looked at me. She wore long sleeves in the middle of summer, flinched when I touched her shoulder, and when I asked if she was okay, she'd just whisper, "I'm fine, Dad," and disappear into her room. Something was destroying my little girl from the inside out, and I had no idea what it was. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. I'm Victor Kane, 42 years old, former Delta Force operator, 15 years in special operations before I retired to give my family a normal life. My wife Natalie and I had 2 kids, Harper, 14, and Evan, 9. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Boston. White picket fence, good schools, safe neighborhood, or so I thought. It started small. Harper stopped eating breakfast with us. She'd grab a granola bar and rush out the door before I could say good morning. Her grades dropped, her friends stopped calling, and that light in her eyes, it just went out. Natalie kept saying it was normal teenage stuff. "She's growing up, Victor. Girls get moody at this age. Don't smother her." But my instincts were screaming at me. I'd spent 15 years reading people, detecting threats, sensing danger before it showed itself, and everything in my gut told me something was very, very wrong. One night at dinner, I watched Harper pick at her food. She wore a baggy hoodie even though it was 80 degrees outside. Her hands shook when she reached for her water glass. "Harper, honey," Natalie said gently. "You feeling okay? You've barely eaten anything this week." "I'm not hungry." Harper's voice was flat, empty. Evan looked up from his chicken nuggets. "Harper's always sad now. She cries at night. I hear her through the wall." Harper's fork clattered onto her plate. "Shut up, Evan." "Hey," I said firmly. "We don't talk to each other like that in this house." Harper stood up fast, her chair scraping against the floor. "May I be excused?" "No." I kept my voice calm but direct. "Sit down. We need to talk about what's going on." "Nothing's going on." Her voice cracked. Tears filled her eyes. "Harper." Natalie reached for her hand. Harper yanked it back, and that's when I saw it. Her sleeve pulled up just an inch, just enough for me to see the bruises circling her wrist, dark purple marks, finger-shaped. My blood went cold. "What happened to your arm?" I stood up slowly, trying not to scare her. "Nothing. I fell during gym class." "Show me." "Dad, please." "Show me. Now." Her hands were trembling as she pulled back both sleeves. Bruises covered both wrists, old ones fading to yellow, fresh ones still deep purple. Someone had grabbed her, hard, repeatedly. Natalie gasped. "Oh my, Harper, who did this to you?" "Nobody. I told you, Don't lie to me." I moved around the table, kneeling in front of her so we were eye level. "Harper, I'm your father. I can see you're hurting. I can see you're scared. But you need to tell me who's doing this to you." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd only seen in war zones. Pure, broken terror. "I can't," she whispered. He said if I tell anyone, Evan will disappear. He said his people are everywhere. He said no one can stop him." My jaw clenched. "Who said that?" "Dad, please." "Who said that?" A tear rolled down her cheek. Her voice came out barely audible. "Dominic Rossini." The room went silent. I knew that name. Everyone in Boston knew that name. Dominic Rossini. Italian mafia. Third-generation crime family. Ran illegal casinos, trafficking operations, extortion rings. Untouchable. Protected by dirty cops and paid-off politicians. And he'd put his hands on my daughter. "How do you know Dominic Rossini?" My voice came out deadly calm, the same tone I used on missions right before things went loud. Harper broke down, full body sobs. I didn't mean to. I didn't know who he was at first. His nephew goes to my school. He seemed nice. He invited me to a party 6 months ago. Said it was just high school kids. But when I got there, she couldn't finish. She didn't have to. Natalie covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Evan looked confused. What's happening? Evan, go to your room, I said quietly. But now. He ran upstairs. I pulled Harper into my arms as she sobbed into my chest. It's okay, baby girl. You're safe now. I promise you're safe. No one's safe from him, Daddy, she cried. He owns half the city. The police won't help. He said if I tell anyone, you'll all disappear. He said he's done it before. Natalie knelt beside us, stroking Harper's hair. We need to call the police. We need to... No. I looked at my wife. She saw something in my eyes that made her stop talking. We're not calling the police. Victor, what are you... I'm going to handle this myself. And in that moment, I wasn't a suburban dad anymore. I was a Delta Force operator, a trained killer, a man who'd eliminated high-value targets in 13 countries. Dominic Rossini had just become my next mission. We sat in the living room for 3 hours that night. Natalie held Harper while our daughter told us everything. Every word felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. It started at Jefferson High back in March. A kid named Felix Rossini transferred to Harper's school. Tall, good-looking, drove an expensive car his family clearly bought him. He started talking to Harper in chemistry class. Friendly at first. Compliments. Small talk. Nothing that raised any red flags. He asked me to a party at his uncle's estate, Harper explained, staring at her hands. Outside the city. He said kids from school would be there. Music, pool, normal weekend stuff. My friend Paige was supposed to come, but she got sick last minute. She should have trusted that instinct to stay home, but she was 14. She thought she was going to hang out with classmates. When she arrived at the massive estate, surrounded by iron gates and security cameras, there were no other teenagers, just Felix and 2 older men in expensive suits. They offered her a drink, something sweet that masked the bitter taste underneath. Within 20 minutes, the room started spinning. She woke up hours later in a locked bedroom, no windows, one door, heavy and bolted from the outside. That's when Dominic Rossini walked in. Mid-50s, silver hair slicked back, cold eyes that looked at her like she was property he'd just purchased. He sat down in a chair across from the bed and told her very calmly that she belonged to him now, that she'd be staying at the estate, that resistance was pointless because his family had been doing this for 3 generations. Then he showed her the photos. Our house. The front door. The mailbox. Evan playing basketball in the driveway, completely unaware someone was watching him through a camera lens. He knew Evan's school schedule, Harper whispered. He knew what time his bus came, what route it took. He said if I screamed, if I fought, if I told anyone, Evan would vanish, just disappear one day after school, and no one would ever find him. Natalie's face had gone pale. Harper, for how long? 6 months, Harper's voice cracked. He kept me there for 3 days that first time. Then Felix drove me home Sunday night and dropped me 2 blocks away. Dominic said I had to come back every Friday, that if I didn't show up, or if I told anyone, Evan was dead. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Every Friday for 6 months, Felix would pick Harper up 2 blocks from school, drive her to that estate outside the city. She'd stay until Sunday evening. Then they'd drop her back near our neighborhood like nothing happened, and she came home every single time, walked through our front door, sat at our dinner table, did her homework, pretended everything was fine, all to keep her little brother safe. I tried to act normal, she said, tears streaming down her face. I thought if I could just survive it, you guys would never have to know. Evan would be safe. I could handle it. Baby, You shouldn't have had to handle anything, Natalie sobbed, pulling Harper closer. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But I could see the guilt in Harper's eyes, the shame, the feeling that somehow she'd brought this on herself by going to that party, by trusting Felix, by not fighting back hard enough. That's what monsters like Rossini do. They don't just destroy bodies, they destroy minds, make their victims feel responsible for their own torture. There are other girls there, Harper said quietly. I've seen them. Young, scared. Some of them have been there longer than me. One girl, Paige, she tried to escape 2 months ago. They caught her before she made it past the front gate. Dominic had his men beat her in front of everyone as a warning. I stood up and walked to the window. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, pure focused rage that I hadn't felt since my last deployment overseas. Natalie looked at me. Victor, we need to call the police, file a report, get Harper to a hospital for an exam, build a case. The police won't do anything, I said quietly, still staring out the window. What? Victor, we have to... Natalie! I turned to face her. Dominic Rossini owns half this city. You think he's been running trafficking operations for 3 generations without buying protection? Cops, judges, district attorneys. He's untouchable through legal channels. So what are we supposed to do? Just let him... No! My voice came out cold, calculated. We're not doing this their way. We're doing this my way. Natalie's eyes widened. She knew that tone. She'd heard it once before, years ago when I told her about some of the missions I'd run overseas. The kind of operations that didn't exist on paper. The kind where bad people simply stopped being problems. Victor, what are you planning? I looked at Harper, my little girl who'd been carrying this nightmare alone for 6 months, who'd sacrificed herself to protect her brother, who'd been broken by a monster who thought money and power made him invincible. I'm planning to remind Dominic Rossini that some fathers have very particular skill sets, I said, and he just made the worst mistake of his life. Harper looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. For the first time in months, I saw a flicker of hope there. Daddy, can you really stop him? I knelt down in front of her and took her hands gently, careful of the bruises. Baby girl, I've eliminated targets in 13 countries. I've taken down warlords, traffickers, and terrorists that governments couldn't touch. Dominic Rossini thinks he's untouchable because he's never met someone like me. What are you going to do? I stood up and pulled out my phone, started scrolling through old contacts, numbers I hadn't called in 3 years, men I'd served with in the most elite special operations unit in the world. I'm calling in my team, I said, and then I'm going to war. The first call I made was to Blake Martinez. We'd served together in Delta Force for 8 years. He'd saved my life in Fallujah, and I'd returned the favor in Syria. He answered on the second ring. Victor Kane. Been a long time, brother. I need you in Boston. Tonight, if possible. This isn't a favor. This is family. There was a pause. Then, text me the address. I'll be on the first flight out. No questions. No hesitation. That's what brothers in arms do. Next was Tristan Cole. Sniper. Best shot I'd ever worked with. Could hit a target from 1,000 yards in high wind. He was running a security firm in Colorado now, trying to live the quiet life like me. Whatever you need, he said after I gave him the brief version. I'm in. Third call went to Kyle Morrison, communications expert. If it had wires, signals, or frequencies, Kyle could intercept it, jam it, or reroute it. He'd left the service to work private contracts, but kept his skills sharp. Rossini? The Italian mob guy? Kyle's voice got serious. Victor, you know what you're walking into? That family has connections everywhere. I know exactly what I'm walking into. Are you in or not? Give me 48 hours to clear my schedule. I'm in. By midnight, my team was mobilized. Natalie had taken Harper upstairs to help her shower and get into clean clothes. Evan was asleep, completely unaware his sister had been living a nightmare. I sat in my home office with my laptop, pulling up everything I could find on Dominic Rossini. Public records showed he owned a dozen legitimate businesses: restaurants, real estate, import-export companies. The estate Harper described was listed under one of his shell corporations. 20 acres, gated, private security. But legitimate business was just the surface. Underground, the Rossini family controlled trafficking routes, illegal gambling, extortion rackets, and money laundering operations worth hundreds of millions. Law enforcement had tried building cases against them for decades. Witnesses disappeared. Evidence vanished. Prosecutors got transferred or suddenly dropped charges. The man was a ghost, protected by layers of corruption and fear. But ghosts could be hunted. You just needed to know how to operate in the shadows. Around 2 in the morning, Natalie came downstairs. Her eyes were red from crying. She sat down across from me. Harper's finally asleep. I gave her one of my sleeping pills. She needs rest. I nodded, still scanning through documents on my screen. Victor, what exactly are you planning? Reconnaissance first. I need eyes on that estate. Layout, security rotations, blind spots, entry points. Then I need to know Rossini's patterns, where he goes, who he meets, how he moves. And then what? You're just going to, what, kill him? I looked up at her. If that's what it takes to make sure he never touches our daughter again, yes. Natalie's hands were shaking. This isn't Afghanistan, Victor. This is America. There are laws, due process. If you kill him, you'll go to prison. Our kids will lose both parents. If I don't stop him, Harper will never be free. He'll come for her again, or he'll make good on his threat and hurt Evan. These people don't just let victims walk away, Natalie. They own them forever unless someone makes them stop. So what are you saying? We just take justice into our own hands? I'm saying the system failed Harper the moment Rossini bought enough cops and judges to make himself untouchable. I closed my laptop. But there's another option. A cleaner one. What option? I know someone in the FBI, Adrian Foster. We crossed paths during a joint operation in 2019. He was working organized crime task force. Good agent. Clean. Not on anyone's payroll. Natalie leaned forward. You think he can help? If I can get him solid evidence, locations, locations, victims, financial records, he might be able to build a case that actually sticks. But I'd need to get inside Rossini's operation first. Inside? Victor, you can't be serious. If he finds out who you are, he won't. I've run undercover ops before. I know how to build a cover identity. This is different. This is personal. You're emotionally compromised. She wasn't wrong. Every fiber of my being wanted to put a bullet in Dominic Rossini's skull and watch him bleed out. But that was rage talking, not strategy. Which is why I need my team, I said. Blake, Tristan, Kyle. They'll keep me focused, operational. We'll gather intelligence first, map everything. Then we hand it to Foster and let the law do its job. And if the law doesn't do its job? I met her eyes. Then I'll do mine. The next morning, I made contact with Adrian Foster through an encrypted email channel. Asked for a meeting. Urgent. No details on unsecured channels. He responded within an hour. Gave me coordinates for a parking garage downtown. Noon. I arrived 15 minutes early, checked for surveillance, and waited. Foster showed up in an unmarked sedan dressed in casual clothes, mid-40s, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Kane, Didn't expect to hear from you again. He shook my hand. You sounded serious in your message. Dominic Rossini. You still building a case on him? Foster's expression darkened. Been trying for 6 years. Every time we get close, witnesses recant, evidence disappears, or my superiors suddenly reassign me to something else. Why? Because he's been trafficking underage girls from his estate outside the city. One of them is my daughter. Foster's jaw tightened. When? 6 months. She just told us last night. We need to get her to a hospital, document injuries, file a report. She won't testify, not yet. He threatened to kill her younger brother, and based on what I know about Rossini, that's not an empty threat. Foster ran a hand through his hair. Then we've got nothing. Without a victim willing to go on record. What if I could get you inside his operation? What if I could document everything? Victims, locations, financial transactions, supplier networks, everything you'd need to bury him. Foster stared at me. You're talking about going undercover into a mafia organization. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? I've done more dangerous things before breakfast in Mosul. This isn't a war zone, Kane. If he finds out who you are, you won't just die. Your entire family will. Which is why he can't find out. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Fake credentials, work history with European security firms, references that would check out because Kyle was already building the digital trail. I can get hired as security. I've got the background, the training, the references. Once I'm inside, I feed you everything. Foster looked at the documents, then back at me. This is insane. This is the only way to stop him. You know it. Your legal channels have been blocked for 6 years. But if I can get you admissible evidence from the inside, can you make it stick? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. If you can get me locations of victims, documented proof of trafficking, financial records linking everything back to Rossini, yeah, I can build a case even his lawyers can't break. Then get me inside his organization. How am I supposed to do that? I smiled. Rossini's head of security just got arrested on a DUI charge last week. I checked. He's looking for a replacement. Someone with military background, European connections, someone who doesn't ask questions. Foster's eyes widened. You're going to apply for a job with the man who tortured your daughter. I'm going to stand next to him, earn his trust, document everything he does. And when the time comes, I'm going to watch him burn. Foster shook his head. If this goes wrong, it won't. Kane, listen to me. If he even suspects you're a plant, you're dead, and I can't protect you in there. I'm not asking for protection. I'm asking you to be ready when I hand you enough evidence to end him. He stared at me for a long moment, then extended his hand. Okay, but we do this by the book. No vigilante justice. You gather intel, pass it to me, and we let the courts handle it. I shook his hand. Agreed. I was lying, of course. If the courts failed, Dominic Rossini would learn what happens when you hurt a Delta Force operator's daughter. But Foster didn't need to know that part yet. I drove home and found Blake already waiting on my porch. Tristan would arrive tonight. Kyle was flying in tomorrow. The team was assembling. The mission was active. And Dominic Rossini had no idea the ghost of his past sins was about to become his present nightmare. 2 weeks later, I walked through the iron gates of Dominic Rossini's estate wearing a tailored suit and carrying forged credentials that said I was Marcus Volkov, former European security contractor. Kyle had built my entire digital footprint, social media accounts going back years, employment records with firms in Prague and Vienna, references that would answer phones and vouch for my work. On paper, I was exactly what Rossini needed. Experienced, ruthless, and expensive. The interview took place in his office. Marble floors, Original paintings on the walls. Everything screamed money and power. Rossini sat behind a massive desk studying my resume. Felix stood in the corner, the same kid who'd lured Harper to this house. It took everything in me not to break his neck right there. "Your background is impressive, Mr. Volkov," Rossini said in accented English. 8 years private security, credentials from multiple countries. Why are you looking for work in Boston? Money. I kept my voice flat, emotionless. European clients don't pay what American ones do. I heard through contacts you were hiring. And you're comfortable with all aspects of security work? He was testing me, asking if I'd look the other way when illegal things happened. I'm comfortable staying employed and keeping my mouth shut, I replied. What you do on your property is your business. My job is making sure nobody interrupts it. A slow smile spread across his face. I like you, Marcus. Most men try to pretend they have morals. You're honest about what you are. I wanted to put a bullet through that smile. When can you start? He asked. Tonight. He nodded. Felix will show you the security protocols. You'll work night shift for now. 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Patrol the grounds, monitor cameras, report anything unusual. Understood. As I followed Felix out, I passed a hallway with locked doors. Behind one of them, I heard someone crying softly. A girl's voice, young. My jaw clenched, but I kept walking. I couldn't break cover, not yet. Felix led me to the security room. 12 monitors showing different angles of the estate. Front gate, driveway, gardens, pool area, and 2 cameras pointed at doors in what looked like a basement level. Those rooms are off limits, Felix said, pointing at the basement feeds. You never go down there unless my uncle specifically tells you to. Clear? Clear. Guards rotate every 4 hours. 2 on exterior, 1 on cameras. My uncle values loyalty above everything. You do your job, don't ask questions, you'll get paid well. He left me alone with another guard named Marco, a thick-necked guy who barely spoke. I spent the first few hours memorizing patrol patterns, camera blind spots, and security gaps. At midnight, Rossini came down with Felix and another man I didn't recognize. They disappeared down the basement stairs. I watched on the monitor as they entered one of the locked rooms. Marco noticed me watching. Eyes on your own screen, he grunted. I looked away, but I'd already seen enough. That basement was where he kept them. The girls. Harper had been in one of those rooms. 3 nights into my shift, Rossini called me into his office again. You're doing good work, Marcus. Punctual, professional, no complaints. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and slid one across the desk. I'm promoting you to inner circle security. More responsibility, more money, but also more discretion required. I took the glass. What kind of discretion? Sometimes we have guests who need management. Young women who don't always understand their place here. I need men who can handle that without getting emotional about it. He was asking if I'd be willing to guard his prisoners, to keep teenage girls locked in basement rooms. I handle whatever the job requires, I said coldly. Good. He drank his whiskey. Tomorrow night you'll be stationed in the basement. One of our guests has been difficult lately, trying to run, making noise. I need someone watching her who won't let sympathy get in the way. Every muscle in my body wanted to lunge across that desk, but I just nodded. Not a problem. That night, I sent an encrypted message to Blake from a burner phone. He and Tristan were positioned in a safe house 3 miles away, monitoring everything I sent them. Message. Confirmed. Multiple victims in basement level. 2 locked rooms. Need extraction plan ready. Blake's response came fast. Copy. Standing by. Don't compromise cover. The next night I was stationed in the basement hallway. 2 doors, heavy locks, no windows. Rossini appeared with Felix around midnight. They stopped at the first door. This one tried to escape again yesterday, Rossini told me. Paige, she's been here 8 months, still hasn't learned. I'm going to teach her a lesson. You watch. Make sure you understand what happens to girls who don't cooperate. He unlocked the door and walked in. I heard a girl scream. She was begging him to stop. My hand instinctively moved toward my concealed weapon, but I forced myself to stay still. This was the impossible choice. Blow my cover now and save one girl but lose the evidence to save all of them. Or wait, gather what Foster needed and end this permanently. I chose the mission, but it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. When Rossini came out 20 minutes later, wiping blood from his knuckles, he looked at me. Still think you can handle this job, Marcus? Yes, sir. Good, because tomorrow night we're bringing in 3 new girls. You'll help Felix pick them up from the high school parking lot. My blood ran cold. He was expanding his operation. More victims. Which school? I asked. Jefferson High, same place we got your daughter from. He said it so casually, like Harper was just inventory he'd acquired. Felix smirked. We've got a good system there. My uncle likes them young, 14, 15, easier to control. I nodded like I agreed, like I wasn't mentally planning exactly how I'd kill both of them when the time came. After they left, I waited until I heard their footsteps fade upstairs. Then I moved to the door where the girl was crying. Paige? I whispered through the crack. The crying stopped. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to end this, do you understand? Silence, then a small voice. Who are you? Someone's father. I'm getting you out, all of you. But I need you to trust me and stay quiet for a few more days. Can you do that? You're lying. You work for him. I work for nobody but my daughter, Harper. She was here 6 months ago. Rossini hurt her. Now I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again. Another pause. Harper. I remember her. She tried to help me once. Got punished for it. My chest tightened. Of course Harper tried to help. Even while she was suffering, she thought about others. I need you to hold on a little longer, I said. I'm gathering evidence. Then the FBI is going to raid this place. But if Rossini suspects anything before that, he'll move you all and we'll never find you. Understand? How do I know you're telling the truth? I slipped a small piece of paper under the door. That's my real name, Victor Kane. When you get out of here, you Google that name, you'll see I was Delta Force. I don't leave people behind. I heard her pick up the paper. Please don't give up, I whispered. I'm getting you home. I walked back to my post, pulled out my phone and messaged Blake again. Timeline moved up. He's grabbing more victims tomorrow from Jefferson High. Need FBI raid in 48 hours max. Blake's response. Roger that. Tristan has visual on the estate. Kyle has comms ready, waiting on your signal. Everything was in place. But tomorrow I'd have to help Felix kidnap 3 more girls just to keep my cover intact. This mission was becoming a nightmare, and I was running out of time before someone else got hurt. The next afternoon, I met Felix in the estate parking lot. He was leaning against a black SUV with tinted windows, scrolling through his phone. Ready for your first pickup? He asked with a sick grin. I nodded, keeping my face blank. Inside, my mind was racing through options. I couldn't let him take 3 more girls. But if I stopped him now, I'd blow everything and lose the chance to save everyone already trapped here. We drove to Jefferson High just as school was letting out. Hundreds of kids poured out the front doors, laughing and talking. Normal teenagers living normal lives. They had no idea a predator was sitting in a vehicle 50 yards away. Felix pointed at a group of girls near the bus stop. See the one in the blue jacket? That's our first target. My uncle likes brunettes. She's perfect. My hands gripped the steering wheel. How do you usually do this? Easy. I walk up, Start a conversation, offer a ride. Tell them I go to the community college nearby. Most of them are flattered when an older guy shows interest. The smart ones say no, but there's always a few who think they're special. He started to open the door. "Wait," I said quickly. "Security perspective. Too many witnesses here. Cameras on that light pole. If anyone sees you approach her and she goes missing later, you're the first person they'll identify." Felix paused. "So what do you suggest?" "Follow her. See where she goes. Grab her somewhere private. Less risk." He thought about it, then nodded. "Smart. That's why my uncle hired you." We followed the girl in the blue jacket for 3 blocks. She turned down a quiet street with no cameras. Felix was about to get out again when my phone buzzed. A text from Blake. "FBI moving in tonight. Foster got emergency warrant. Get out now." My heart pounded. The raid was happening. Tonight. Which meant I didn't have to go through with this. "Problem," I said to Felix, showing him a fake text I'd pulled up. "Your uncle needs us back at the estate immediately. Security breach on the north cameras." Felix's eyes widened. "What kind of breach?" "Didn't say. But he said to abort the pickup and return now." We drove back to the estate. Felix rushed inside to find his uncle. I stayed in the parking lot and sent a message to Agent Foster. 3 girls were targeted at Jefferson High today. Blue jacket, brunette, near the bus stop around 3 p.m. Send patrol to watch her route home. "Target is safe for now, but they'll try again." Foster's response. "Copy. Patrol dispatched. Raid team assembling. Stand by for extraction at 2200 hours. 10 p.m. 6 hours from now." I went to my post in the basement hallway. Paige's door was locked, but I could hear her moving inside. I knocked softly. 3 taps. A pause. Then 2 more. Our signal. "It's happening tonight," I whispered through the door. "FBI is coming. When you hear sirens and shouting, get on the floor and stay down. Understand?" "Tonight?" Her voice cracked with hope and fear. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. You're going home, Paige. Tell the others. Stay quiet until you hear the raid start." I moved to the second locked room and gave the same message to the girls inside. Then I went upstairs and found Rossini in his office with Felix and 2 other guards. "Marcus, good timing," Rossini said. "We have a situation. One of my business partners is concerned about security. Says he saw unfamiliar cars near the property yesterday. I need you to do a full perimeter check. Make sure we don't have surveillance." My blood went cold. If Rossini suspected surveillance, he might move the girls before the raid. "I'll check immediately," I said. I walked the perimeter with my flashlight, pretending to search while actually looking for Blake and Tristan's position. They were 300 yards out in the woods, well hidden, but if Rossini sent dogs or thermal scopes, they'd be spotted. I sent a quick text. "Rossini suspects surveillance. Might search woods. Relocate. Blake, moving now. Stay safe in there." I returned to the office. "Perimeter is clear. No signs of surveillance equipment or vehicles. Your partner is probably just being paranoid." Rossini studied my face. For a moment I thought he saw through me. Then he nodded. "Good. Felix, take Marcus and do a sweep of the interior. Check all the rooms. Make sure our guests are secure." We went back to the basement. Felix unlocked Paige's door. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes red from crying but trying to look defiant. "Everything okay in here?" Felix asked mockingly. "Go to hell," she spat. He laughed and moved to the next room. I stayed back a moment and caught Paige's eye. I nodded once. She understood. "Hold on just a little longer." At 9 p.m., Rossini gathered everyone in the main hall. All the guards, Felix, me, 8 men total. "I've decided we're moving the girls tonight," he announced. "Too much heat lately. FBI has been asking questions. We're taking them to our facility in Rhode Island until things cool down. My stomach dropped. If he moved them now, the raid would find an empty basement. Everything would be for nothing. When do we leave? I asked, keeping my voice steady. 1 hour. Get the van ready. We'll sedate the girls for transport. They'll wake up in their new location. I had to stall him. But how? Sir, if the FBI is watching, moving them all tonight in one vehicle is risky. If we get pulled over for any reason and they find 5 unconscious girls, we're done. Rossini frowned. What do you suggest? Move them in 2 groups. 3 tonight, 2 tomorrow morning. Different vehicles, different routes, lower profile. He considered this. Which ones tonight? The newest and the most difficult. Paige and the 2 from the second room. Keep the compliant ones for tomorrow when there's less heat. Felix nodded. Makes sense, Uncle. Marcus is right about the risk. Rossini agreed. Fine. Prep the van. We leave at 10. 10 p.m., exactly when the raid was scheduled. Perfect timing. Almost too perfect. Which meant everything had to go exactly right or this would turn into a bloodbath. I helped load equipment into the van, checking my concealed weapon and making sure I had a clear line of sight to Felix and Rossini. If the FBI didn't breach before we drove off, I'd have to take down both of them myself and pray the girls didn't get caught in the crossfire. At 9:55, we brought Paige and the other 2 girls up from the basement. Their hands were zip-tied. They looked terrified. Rossini stood by the van door. Get in. Try anything stupid and you'll regret it. That's when we heard it. Sirens. Lots of them. Coming fast. Rossini's face went white. We've been compromised. Everyone inside. Lock it down. Too late. The front gates exploded inward. Black SUVs poured through. FBI logos on the doors. Armed agents in tactical gear flooded the driveway. FBI! Everyone on the ground! Hands where we can see them! Felix ran for the house. I grabbed him by the collar and threw him to the ground. Stay down! Rossini pulled a gun, pointed it at Paige. Nobody moves or she dies! That's when my training took over. 3 steps, disarm, strike to the throat. Rossini went down hard, gasping for air. I kicked the gun away and put my knee on his back. Agent Foster ran up with his weapon drawn. Victor, you good? I'm good. Girls are safe. Rossini and Felix are secured. Paige stared at me. You really did it. You really saved us. I looked her in the eye. I told you I don't leave people behind. The FBI turned Rossini's estate into a crime scene. Agents swarmed every room, collecting evidence, taking photos, documenting everything. Paige and the other girls were taken to ambulances where paramedics checked them over. Social workers arrived to help coordinate reuniting them with their families. I stood with Agent Foster near the main entrance, watching them load Rossini and Felix into separate FBI vehicles. Rossini was screaming about lawyers and unlawful arrest. Felix was crying. You did good work, Kane, Foster said. The evidence you gathered, the recordings, photos, financial documents, it's enough to put Rossini away for life, maybe multiple life sentences. How long until trial? I asked. 6 months, maybe a year. These cases take time to build properly. My jaw clenched. A year? He'll be out on bail in a week. No bail on trafficking charges with this much evidence. Judge will remand him to custody. I wanted to believe him, but I'd seen how the system worked, how money and connections could bend rules that seemed unbreakable. What about the girls? I asked. They'll have to testify? Eventually, yes, but we'll have victim advocates with them every step. Counseling, support services. We'll do everything we can to make this easier. Paige walked over, wrapped in a blanket. A female agent stood beside her. Mr. Kane, can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. She looked at the ground, then back at me. I just wanted to say thank you. When you first told me you'd get us out, I didn't believe you. Everyone says they'll help, but nobody actually does, but you really did it. You're going to be okay, Paige. It'll take time, but you're going to heal. Will Harper be okay too? Is she really your daughter? I nodded. She is, and she's home now, safe. Tears filled Paige's eyes. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't help her more when she was there. Dominic punished her because she tried to comfort me once. I felt so guilty. That wasn't your fault. None of this was anyone's fault except the men who did this to you. She hugged me suddenly, crying into my jacket. I stood there awkwardly, not sure what to do. I wasn't good with emotional moments, but I put my hand on her shoulder and let her cry until she was ready to let go. The agent led her back to the ambulance. Foster turned to me. You should go home, Victor. Be with your family. We'll handle it from here. I drove back to my house as the sun was rising. Natalie was waiting in the living room. She jumped up when I walked in. Is it over? Did they arrest him? They arrested him. 5 girls are safe. The evidence is solid. She hugged me tight. Thank you. Thank you for bringing them home. Harper came downstairs. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Did you really save Paige? I did. She asked about you, wanted me to tell you she's okay. Harper broke down crying, not from sadness this time, from relief, from knowing she wasn't alone anymore, that the nightmare was actually over. Or at least, I thought it was over. 3 days later, Foster called me. His voice was tense. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Rossini's lawyer is Samuel Preston, best defense attorney in New England. He's already filed motions to suppress evidence, claiming illegal search and seizure. Says the warrant was obtained under false pretenses. That's impossible. The warrant was clean. Preston is arguing that because you were undercover without official authorization, everything you gathered is fruit of the poisonous tree. Inadmissible. My blood ran cold. You're saying he might walk? I'm saying the case just got a lot more complicated. Judge is reviewing the motions now. Hearing is in 2 days. I hung up and immediately called Blake. We might have a problem. I heard. Foster briefed me. Preston is good, really good. He's gotten mob bosses off on technicalities before. So what do? We wait. Let the legal system play out. If it fails, we have contingency plans. But waiting wasn't something I was good at, not when Rossini might go free. The hearing happened on a Thursday morning. I sat in the back of the courtroom with Natalie. Harper stayed home with Evan. She couldn't handle being in the same room as Rossini yet. Judge Quinn Ashford presided, mid-50s, reputation for being tough but fair. She listened to Preston's arguments for 2 hours about how my undercover work violated proper procedures. Then Foster stood up and presented the evidence. Photos of the locked rooms, recordings of Rossini discussing trafficking operations, financial records showing payments to corrupt officials, testimony from the 5 rescued girls. Your Honor, Foster said firmly, Mr. Kane acted as a concerned citizen gathering evidence of ongoing crimes. He was not acting as a government agent. The evidence is admissible under citizens' arrest doctrine and exigent circumstances. Preston argued back. My client's rights were violated. This entire case is built on illegal surveillance and entrapment. Judge Ashford reviewed the documents. The room was silent for 10 minutes while she read through everything. Finally, she looked up. The evidence is admissible. Mr. Rossini's constitutional rights were not violated. The warrant was properly obtained. Trial will proceed as scheduled. Relief flooded through me. Natalie grabbed my hand and squeezed, but then Preston stood again. Your Honor, given the high-profile nature of this case and my client's standing in the community, we request bail be set at a reasonable amount. Denied, Judge Ashford said immediately. Mr. Rossini is charged with multiple counts of human trafficking, kidnapping, and sexual assault of minors. He is a flight risk and a danger to the community. Remand to federal custody without bail. Rossini exploded, started shouting in Italian. Guards had to restrain him as they dragged him out of the courtroom. Preston looked frustrated but maintained his composure. We'll be appealing this decision, Your Honor. Appeal all you want, Counselor. My ruling stands. We walked out of the courthouse into bright sunlight. Foster met us on the steps. That went better than expected, he said. Judge Ashford doesn't play games. Rossini stays locked up until trial. And then what? I asked. He gets convicted and goes to prison. But what about the people he paid off? The corrupt cops and officials who helped him operate for years? We're building cases on them too. This is just the beginning. Rossini's financial records implicate a dozen people. By the time we're done, we'll have cleaned out half the corruption in this city. I wanted to feel relieved, but something in my gut told me this wasn't finished yet. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Victor Kane. The voice was smooth, professional. My name is Julian Cross. I represent certain business interests associated with the Rossini family. I'm not interested in talking to you. I think you should hear me out. Your actions have disrupted a very profitable operation. My associates are not pleased. Your associates can go to hell. Mr. Kane, you have 2 children, a wife, a nice suburban home. It would be unfortunate if anything happened to them because you refuse to listen to reason. I felt my blood turn to ice. Are you threatening my family? I'm simply pointing out that this situation can still be resolved peacefully. Drop your cooperation with the FBI. Refuse to testify. In exchange, your family stays safe and you receive substantial financial compensation. And if I refuse, then I can't guarantee what might happen. Accidents occur. Houses catch fire. Children disappear on their way to school. I hung up and immediately called Foster. We have a problem. Foster put my family in protective custody immediately. Within 2 hours, federal marshals moved Natalie, Harper, and Evan to a safe house outside the city. Blake, Tristan, and Kyle set up a security perimeter around the property. I stayed behind. If Rossini's people wanted to send a message, they'd come from me first, and I'd be ready. This is exactly what they want, Foster warned me. They're trying to scare you into backing down. Don't give them that power. I'm not backing down, but I'm also not hiding while they threaten my family. Victor, be smart about this. We can protect you. I've been protecting myself for 20 years. I'll be fine. That night I sat in my dark living room with my weapon on the coffee table and waited. Blake was positioned on the roof across the street. Tristan had eyes on the back entrance. Kyle monitored all communications frequencies for suspicious chatter. At 2 a.m., a black sedan pulled up outside my house. 3 men got out. Professional. Moved like trained operators. Not random thugs. I texted Blake. 3 targets. Front approach. Non-lethal if possible. His response. Copy. The men moved toward my front door. One picked the lock while the other 2 flanked the entrance. They entered quietly, weapons drawn. I waited until they were all inside. Then I hit the lights. They froze, momentarily blinded. I had my weapon aimed at the center target. Drop your guns or I drop you. The lead man smiled. Victor Kane, we just want to talk. Then you should have knocked. Our employer sent us to deliver a message. You're making a mistake. The Rossini family has been operating for 3 generations. They have resources you can't imagine. Walk away now and everyone stays safe. Tell your employer I'm not interested. Your daughter is a pretty girl. Be a shame if something happened to her. That was the wrong thing to say. I shot him in the knee before he finished the sentence. He went down screaming. The other two raised their weapons, but Blake's laser sight appeared on one man's chest from the window. Tristan's on the other. "You're surrounded," I said calmly. "Drop your weapons or my friends drop you." They hesitated, then lowered their guns. I kicked them away and zip-tied all three men. Foster arrived 20 minutes later with a tactical team. "You just assaulted 3 men in your living room, Victor." "Self-defense. They broke into my house with weapons. Check the security footage." He did. The cameras Kyle installed showed everything. 3 armed men forcing entry, me defending my home. "Who sent you?" Foster asked the lead man, now bandaged by paramedics. "I want a lawyer." "You'll get one. Right after I charge you with home invasion, attempted murder, and conspiracy. That's 20 to life. Or you can tell me who hired you and maybe we work something out." The man stayed silent, but one of the others cracked. "Julian Cross. He's Rossini's fixer. Handles problems the family can't deal with publicly." "Where can I find him?" "He operates out of an office downtown, Mason Tower, 15th floor." Foster had agents at Mason Tower within the hour, but Cross was gone. His office cleared out, computer hard drives wiped. He knew we were coming. "He's in the wind," Foster told me over the phone, "but we have enough to issue a warrant." "He won't stay hidden forever." The attacks didn't stop. 2 days later, someone tried to run Natalie's car off the road near the safe house. Blake stopped them. 3 days after that, a suspicious package arrived at Harper's school before we'd pulled her out. Bomb squad cleared it, fake explosive, but the message was clear. Rossini was directing operations from inside federal custody, using lawyers and associates to coordinate intimidation while he sat in a cell pretending to be helpless. I'd had enough. I called a meeting with Foster, Blake, Tristan, and Kyle. "We need to end this," I said. "Rossini's running his operation from prison. He's got corrupted guards, lawyers passing messages, and associates doing his dirty work. The trial won't stop him. Even if he's convicted, he'll keep targeting my family." "What are you suggesting?" Foster asked carefully. "I'm suggesting we make sure he understands what happens when you go after a soldier's family. Victor, if you're planning what I think you're planning, I'm not planning murder, I'm planning justice." Blake leaned forward. "Prison can be a dangerous place. Inmates don't like child traffickers. Word gets around about what someone's in for." Foster shook his head. "No, we're not doing that. We're not prison vigilantes." "Then what are we?" I asked. "Because your system isn't working. He's still threatening us, still operating, still untouchable." "He's not untouchable. We have him in custody. The trial is 6 months away. My family can't live in hiding for 6 months. Harper can't heal while she's looking over her shoulder. This ends now." Foster stood up. "I can't be part of this conversation. If you do something illegal, I'll have to arrest you." "Then leave." He stared at me for a long moment, then walked out. Blake, Tristan, Kyle, and I sat in silence. "So," Kyle said finally, "what's the actual plan?" I pulled out a folder. Inside were documents Kyle had gathered: Rossini's prison location, guard schedules, inmate roster, cell block layout. Rossini's in protective custody because of his charges, separated from general population. But tomorrow, he's being transferred to the courthouse for a hearing. During transport, there's a 10-minute window where he'll be vulnerable. "You want to hit the transport?" Blake asked. "No, I want everyone to think someone tried to hit the transport. Create enough chaos that Rossini gets moved to a different facility, one with less protective measures." Tristan nodded slowly. "And once he's in a facility with general population access." "Nature takes its course," I finished. We spent the next 12 hours planning. Kyle hacked the transport route and created a fake threat that would trigger emergency protocols. On his second night there, Rossini got into an altercation with 3 inmates. Guards intervened, but not before he took serious injuries. Broken ribs, concussion, internal bleeding. He survived. Barely. Foster called me the next morning. Rossini's in the hospital. Prison officials are investigating how he ended up in general population. They're saying it was an administrative error. That's unfortunate, I said. Victor, did you have something to do with this? Me? I've been home with my family. Check my alibi. He was quiet. He's terrified now. His lawyer says he wants to cooperate. Give up names of corrupt officials, trafficking networks, everything. In exchange for what? Protective custody and reduced sentence. I smiled. Sounds like justice is working after all. Rossini's cooperation brought down 12 corrupt officials, 4 judges, and 24 associates. His trafficking network collapsed, his money dried up, his protection disappeared, and my family finally stopped looking over their shoulders. 3 months later, the trial began. The courthouse was packed with media, victims' families, and people who'd followed the case since Rossini's arrest. Security was intense. Metal detectors, armed guards, and federal marshals everywhere. I sat in the front row with Natalie. Harper was in a separate witness room with a victim advocate. She'd agreed to testify, though it had taken weeks of counseling to get her ready. Rossini looked different now, thinner, bruises still fading from his prison injuries. His expensive suit couldn't hide the fear in his eyes. He'd gone from untouchable crime boss to broken man facing life in prison. Preston, his lawyer, tried everything. Motions to exclude evidence, challenges to witness credibility, arguments about prosecutorial misconduct, but Judge Ashford shut down each attempt with cold precision. "Mr. Preston, this court will not entertain delay tactics," she said firmly. "Your client is charged with heinous crimes against children. We will proceed." The prosecution went first. Foster's team presented mountains of evidence, financial records showing payments to corrupt officials, recordings of Rossini discussing trafficking operations, photos of the basement prison at his estate, medical reports from the rescued girls showing injuries consistent with prolonged abuse. Then came the witnesses. Paige testified first. She walked to the stand with her head held high, refusing to look at Rossini. "Can you identify the man who held you captive for 8 months?" the prosecutor asked. Paige pointed directly at Rossini. "That's him, Dominic Rossini. He's the one who destroyed my life. Can you tell the jury what happened to you?" Her voice shook but stayed strong. "I was 15 when his nephew approached me at school. He seemed nice, invited me to a party. When I got there, Dominic drugged me and locked me in a basement room. For 8 months, he kept me there. He beat me when I tried to escape. He threatened to kill my family if I told anyone. He treated me like property." The jury looked horrified. Several jurors wiped tears from their eyes. Preston tried to discredit her during cross-examination. "Isn't it true you went to that party willingly? That you made poor choices?" "Objection!" the prosecutor shouted. "Victim blaming." "Sustained," Judge Ashford said coldly. "Mr. Preston, watch yourself." 2 more victims testified. Then it was Harper's turn. Natalie squeezed my hand as our daughter walked into the courtroom. She looked so small up there on the witness stand, but when she spoke, her voice was clear. "My name is Harper Kane. I'm 15 years old, and Dominic Rossini held me captive for 6 months." The prosecutor walked her through her testimony, how Felix had lured her to the estate, how Rossini had threatened Evan's life to keep her silent, how she'd endured 6 months of hell while trying to protect her little brother. Rossini's lawyer tried to interrupt. "Objection, Your Honor. The witness is being coached. She's telling her truth, counselor," Judge Ashford snapped. "Sit down." Harper continued. "I thought I was protecting my family by staying quiet. I thought if I just survived it, everyone would be safe. But my dad taught me something. He taught me that monsters only win when good people stay silent. So I'm not staying silent anymore. She looked directly at Rossini for the first time. You tried to break me. You tried to make me feel worthless. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting. And you're the one who's broken now. The courtroom was silent. Even the reporters had stopped typing. When Harper stepped down, I hugged her tight. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. Did I do okay, Dad? You did more than okay. You were incredible. The defense tried to paint Rossini as a businessman who'd been set up by vindictive competitors. That the girls were lying for attention. That the evidence was manufactured. But the jury didn't buy it. After 3 weeks of testimony, they deliberated for only 4 hours. On the charge of human trafficking, how do you find? Guilty. Kane, how does it feel knowing your actions saved 5 girls and brought down a major trafficking operation? It feels like I did what any father would do. I protected my daughter, and I made sure the man who hurt her could never hurt anyone else. Some people are calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just a dad who loves his kids. The real heroes are the girls who survived and found the courage to testify. They're the ones who ended this. Harper stood beside me and I put my arm around her shoulders. I'm proud of all of them. That night we had dinner at home as a family for the first time in months. No safe house. No federal marshals outside. Just us. Evan talked excitedly about his upcoming baseball game. Natalie discussed plans to return to her charity work. Harper smiled, really smiled, for the first time since this nightmare began. Dad, she said quietly as we cleared dishes, thank you for believing me, for fighting for me. Always, sweetheart. Always. But there was still one piece of unfinished business. Julian Cross, Rossini's fixer, was still out there, still free, still a threat. Foster had been tracking him through financial transactions and known associates, but Cross was a ghost, professional, careful, no mistakes, until he made one. 2 days after the verdict, Blake called me. We found him. Cross is holed up in a warehouse in Providence. He's planning to flee the country tomorrow morning. Does Foster know? Not yet, but if we wait for official channels, Cross will be gone by the time they get a warrant. I grabbed my jacket. Give me the address. Natalie saw me heading for the door. Victor, where are you going? To finish this. Please be careful. I kissed her forehead. I will. Blake, Tristan, Kyle, and I met 2 miles from the warehouse. We had night vision, body armor, and weapons. This wasn't an official operation. This was personal. We breached the warehouse at midnight. Cross had 2 bodyguards with him, packing bags of cash and forged passports. FBI! I shouted, even though I wasn't FBI. Drop your weapons! Cross's guards opened fire. We returned fire. Both guards went down. Cross tried to run, but Tristan cut him off. We zip-tied him and called Foster. We found your fugitive. Warehouse on Commerce Street. He's gift-wrapped and ready for pickup. Foster arrived with agents 30 minutes later. You're unbelievable, Kane. You can't just... Can't just what? Stop criminals? Protect my family. Do what your system couldn't. He sighed. One of these days you're going to push too far. Maybe, but not today. Cross got charged with conspiracy, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice. With Rossini already convicted, Cross had no leverage. He took a plea deal, 15 years in exchange for naming everyone in Rossini's network. The cleanup took months, but slowly, the corruption that had protected Rossini for decades got exposed and destroyed. 6 months after Rossini's conviction, life started to feel normal again. Harper was back in school, though she'd transferred to a private academy where nobody knew her story. She was seeing a therapist twice a week and slowly learning to trust the world again. Paige and the other rescued girls were on similar paths, some faster than others. Healing wasn't linear. There were good days and bad days, breakthroughs and setbacks. Agent Foster kept me updated on the broader investigation. Rossini's cooperation had exposed a trafficking network that stretched across 5 states, dozens of arrests, hundreds of victims identified and rescued. The corruption he'd built over 3 decades was finally crumbling. But justice on paper didn't always feel like justice in reality. One afternoon, I got a call from Paige's mother, Eliza. "Mr. Kane, I wanted to thank you personally. Paige talks about you sometimes, says you're the reason she's alive." "She saved herself by surviving," I said. "I just opened the door." "Still, you gave us our daughter back. We'll never forget that." After we hung up, Harper came downstairs. She'd been working on a school project about advocacy and social justice. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think what happened to me, do you think it means something? Like, can something good come from it?" I sat down beside her. "I think you get to decide what it means. Some people let trauma define them. Others use it to become stronger, to help others. There's no right answer. I've been thinking about the other girls, the ones who don't have someone like you fighting for them, who's helping them. There are organizations, advocacy groups, law enforcement task forces. But it's not enough, is it? Rossini operated for 30 years before anyone stopped him. How many other men like him are still out there?" She wasn't wrong. Rossini wasn't unique. He was just one monster in a system full of them. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "I want to do something. When I'm older, I mean. I want to help trafficking victims. Maybe work with an organization that rescues them, or advocate for better laws. I don't know exactly, but I can't just forget this happened and move on." Pride swelled in my chest. My daughter had been broken by evil, but instead of staying broken, she was choosing to fight back. "If that's what you want to do, I'll support you every step of the way." She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Thanks, Dad." That evening, I met with Blake, Tristan, and Kyle at a bar downtown. We'd stayed close after the operation ended, meeting monthly to catch up. "How's Harper doing?" Blake asked. "Better. She's talking about helping other victims when she's older." Tristan raised his beer. "She's got her father's courage." "She's got more than that. She's got something I never had, the ability to turn pain into purpose." Kyle leaned forward. "So what's next for you, Victor? Back to civilian life? Or are you thinking about doing more of this kind of work?" I'd been asking myself the same question. My old life, contractor work, quiet suburban existence, didn't fit anymore. I'd seen what happened when predators operated unchecked, when systems failed victims, when nobody stepped up to fight. "Foster's been talking to me about consulting," I said. "FBI wants someone with my background to help train agents on trafficking investigations, undercover operations, tactical planning." "You interested?" Blake asked. "Maybe. I'm also thinking about starting something, a private organization that does what the system can't, finding victims, gathering evidence, working cases that fall through the cracks, like a private trafficking task force. Something like that. There are kids out there right now in the same situation Harper was in, scared, silent, waiting for someone to notice, someone to care enough to fight." Tristan nodded. "You need operators. I'm in." "Same," Kyle added. Blake raised his glass. "You built a team once to save your daughter. Sounds like you're building one to save everyone's daughters." We clinked glasses. It wasn't a formal commitment, but it was a beginning. 2 weeks later, Harper gave a presentation at her school about human trafficking awareness. Her teacher invited me to attend. I sat in the back of the classroom and watched my daughter stand in front of 30 students and speak her truth. "Most people think trafficking happens in other countries," Harper said. But it happens here, in our cities, our neighborhoods, to girls just like me. I survive because my father refused to give up. But not everyone has someone fighting for them. That's why awareness matters. That's why speaking up matters. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Several students had tears in their eyes. Her teacher hugged her. Afterward, a girl approached Harper nervously. "Can I talk to you privately?" They stepped into the hallway. I stayed back but watched through the window. The girl was crying, whispering something to Harper. Harper listened, then hugged her. Harper came back 15 minutes later. "Dad, we need to talk to Agent Foster." "Why?" "That girl, she's being trafficked, right now, by her stepfather. She's been too scared to tell anyone, but after hearing my story, she's ready to get help." My chest tightened. Another victim, another monster, another battle. Let's call him now. Within hours, Foster had a team investigating. By the next morning, they'd arrested the stepfather and placed the girl in protective custody. Harper stayed in contact with her, offering support and understanding that only another survivor could provide. That night, Natalie found me in my office staring at case files Foster had sent over. Other trafficking investigations. Other victims who needed help. "You're doing it, aren't you?" she said, "starting that organization." "I have to. There are too many Harpers out there, too many monsters getting away with it." She sat down beside me. "I know, and I support you. But promise me something." "What?" "Promise you won't lose yourself in this. You saved Harper. You stopped Rossini. But you can't save everyone, Victor. Don't destroy yourself trying." I pulled her close. "I'll try. But I can't just walk away knowing what I know, seeing what I've seen." "I know. That's why I love you. You're one of the good ones." 3 months later, I officially launched the Kane Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to fighting human trafficking through investigation, victim advocacy, and public awareness. Blake, Tristan, and Kyle signed on as consultants. Foster connected us with other law enforcement agencies. Harper became our youngest spokesperson, sharing her story at schools and conferences. The work was hard, heartbreaking. Some cases ended with rescue and justice. Others ended in tragedy. But every victim we found, every trafficker we stopped, was a victory. Rossini sat in his maximum security prison serving 12 life sentences. No possibility of parole, no power, no protection. Just decades of isolation ahead of him. And somewhere in that prison he understood the truth. He'd made one fatal mistake. He'd touched the daughter of a man who knew how to fight back. A man who'd spent 15 years learning how to eliminate threats. He'd underestimated a father's love, and it had destroyed him. 1 year later, I stood in a packed auditorium watching Harper walk onto the stage. She was 16 now, stronger and more confident than I'd ever seen her. About how traffickers exploited legal loopholes and corruption. About the need for better victim support, harsher penalties, and coordinated law enforcement efforts. When she finished, the committee chairman stood and applauded. The entire room followed. Harper had just changed the conversation about trafficking in America. Afterward, reporters swarmed her, but Harper handled every question with grace and strength. She transformed her trauma into purpose, her pain into power. Natalie squeezed my hand. "She's incredible." "She's a survivor," I said. "They all are." That evening we had dinner at home. Harper, Evan, Natalie, and me. Evan was 12 now, finally old enough to understand some of what his sister had been through. He'd become fiercely protective of her, always making sure she was okay. "Harper, your speech was amazing," Evan said. "Are you nervous about all the attention?" "A little, but if my story helps even one person, it's worth it." "You're helping more than one person," I told her. The Kane Foundation has rescued 43 victims in the past year. Every single one of them knows your story. You give them hope. Harper smiled. We give them hope, Dad. This isn't just you or just me. It's all of us working together. She was right. The foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. Blake ran tactical operations. Tristan handled security. Kyle managed intelligence and tech. Foster connected us with law enforcement agencies nationwide. And Harper became the face of our advocacy work, speaking at schools and conferences across the country. Paige had joined our team too. She was training to become a victim advocate, using her experience to help other survivors navigate the recovery process. A few months later, I received word that Rossini had been attacked again in prison. This time, it was serious. Multiple stab wounds. He survived, but barely. Prison officials moved him to solitary confinement for his own protection. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel anything except relief that he could never hurt anyone again. Foster called me that same week. We just wrapped up the last case connected to Rossini's network. 52 arrests total. Over 200 victims identified and rescued. You started something big, Victor. We all started something. This wasn't just me. Maybe. But you were willing to do what nobody else would. You went into the darkness to pull those girls out. That takes a special kind of courage. Or a special kind of desperation. I was just a father trying to save his daughter. You saved a lot more than your daughter. That night I sat on the back porch watching the sunset. Harper came out and sat beside me. You okay, Dad? I'm good. Just thinking. About what? About how proud I am of you. About how far you've come. About how you took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something powerful. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I learned that from you. You didn't give up on me when I was too scared to save myself. You showed me what real strength looks like. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Harper spoke again. Dad, I've been thinking about college. I want to study criminal justice, maybe work with the FBI someday, help other survivors the way Agent Foster helped us. That's a great path. You'd be amazing at it. You think so? I know so. You've already changed lives, Harper. You're just getting started. She smiled and hugged me tight. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. Always. The Kane Foundation continued to grow. We expanded operations to 6 states, partnered with international organizations, trained law enforcement agencies on trafficking investigations, and most importantly, we saved lives. Every girl we rescued was a victory. Every trafficker we stopped was justice served. Every survivor who found healing was proof that the darkness doesn't win. Rossini spent his days in solitary confinement, forgotten by the world. No power, no empire, just a broken man paying for his crimes in isolation. And my daughter? She was thriving, speaking, healing, fighting for others. She'd taken her pain and transformed it into purpose. I'd spent 15 years in special operations, eliminating threats to national security. But the most important mission of my life was saving my daughter. And watching her become a force for good in this world. That was true victory. That was justice. That was healing. The end, emotional reflection. Before we close this chapter, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever felt completely helpless watching someone you love suffer? Have you ever had to make impossible choices to protect your family? This story is about one father's fight, but it represents thousands of families fighting similar battles every single day. I'd love to hear from you.